Welcome back, Niners. We are here for another Visual Studio 2010 and .NET Framework 4-week video with Amit. Amit, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people what we're going to talk about today.
Hey guys, my name is Amit Mohindra and I'm a program manager with the Visual C++ team. And what we are going to talk about today is that 10 is the new 6 is what we are releasing in Visual Studio 10. What that means is that we have heard from customers that 6 was one of the most productive tools of its time, and 10 we are trying to put an effort, since the code bases have actually increased in size and scalability becomes a top priority for a lot of the customers out there. So we want to make 10 the most productive tool for you and for the developers out there who are programming for who are developing applications for Windows. So that's our motto, and for that what we have done is that we have invested in a bunch of features. Like we have invested in the IDE, we have invested in the C++ OX standards, we have invested in MFC, which lights up on the different versions of Windows. And there is a parallel team that works on parallel computing, so there is a lot of work in parallel computing there, and so that's some of the areas that we have actually really concentrated on in this release.
Very cool.
The core tenets being performance, extensibility, simplifying deployment, and conformance. So with that, I'll dive into the things that we have done.
Cool. Let's go ahead and dive in.
So here is a simple application that we have, and it's not a very heavy demo that I'm trying to do here. Let me just build it. It's already built. So this is a simple MFC application that I'm going to start. And as you can see, this is an MFC application which is not different from the other MFC applications that we have seen in the past. And it still looks like the MFC application hasn't actually lighted up with the features that Vista has released. Like for example, we have a new cool UI in Vista, and you don't see this MFC application actually being lighting up with the OS being upgraded. So what we have done in MFC is that we have supported upgrading your applications. So if with very little effort, if you look at so here is something we added the ribbon during the 2008 feature pack. So I have a hash define here, but if you see what this hash define does is it only enables a certain part of the code. So here is the part of the code that it's enabling, and this is the only part of the code that will enable your application to be ribbon aware. You can write this part of the code to your existing MFC applications. There are certain things that are well documented on MSDN, so you should be able to find documentation on these things. Let me go ahead and build this application here, and you'll see that it automatically lights up on Vista. So you see here that the application, when we added the ribbon, this is the office look and feel that we have provided to this particular MFC application. So it's not only that it's running on a new OS, but it has that ribbon capacity. So you can write your MFC applications that will have the ribbon when you can enable your applications to have a ribbon in it. You can see the office style. You can change the style of your application, and you can change different styles, and you can have customized menus. So all that you saw in that particular menu, it was hard to find. Now it's part of the ribbon. So I think that's really cool. This was part of the feature pack release that we did in MFC. Now this application is still, you can have ribbon support on other OSs as well. so you can have it on XP, and but you just have to have the feature pack installed. So on the other hand, if you see that what we did was, I'm just going to quickly switch here, and we'll get back to what the change that I'm trying to do. So as you can see, what I did was I uncommented 2 lines of code, which made this particular application restart manager aware. So in Dev 10, what we have done is that we have made MFC applications restart manager aware. What is restart manager? This is actually a new feature in the Vista OS, and I think Vista OS and continuing in other releases of the Windows OS, in which the what happens is that if there have been times when your application actually crashes and there is a lot of data loss that happens, how do you make your applications aware of the fact that the application is going to crash, and you get time to save that data? MFC has a document view architecture, so you can host a lot of documents within MFC applications. You would want your applications to be restart manager aware. So for that, what I did was I just uncommented a line, and I introduced a flag which said AFX restart manager support all aspects. And this is an interval. I didn't really need to do that. It's only that Vista actually kicks in only after 60 seconds of the restart. For the application to be restart manager aware, and that is to avoid denial of service types of attacks. And so what I've done is I have changed the autosave interval so that it doesn't take as long, and only in 15 seconds it will autosave the documents. So I'll just go ahead and build this application. I'm going to go to the debug directory and run it.
So this would be an example where we're having to wait for the application to run for a while in order to register that hook, so Vista won't automatically get in this cyclical reboot cycle.
Correct.
For Restart Manager.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to save a document and create another one which is unsaved here. Go ahead and save it. And there's a crash me button here which will get enabled in 60 seconds, so I'm able to crash the application.
Right, cool.
Let's see. So it's now enabled. So it's been 60 seconds since the application is running, and I'm going to wait a few seconds more for the autosave to kick in, and then I'll go ahead and crash this particular application. Yep. So behind the scenes, what is happening is that it's auto-saving the documents. Since the autosave interval was 15 seconds, it's probably auto-saved the documents. And now, since I've crashed the application, it's going to come back up, and we'll see what happens there. And this is also available through the wizard. So the new in Dev 10, you'll be able to create applications which already have the code wired in.
Cool.
So you can it's just a simple checkbox that you do. So the application crashed, and this is what happened. We crashed the application and it restarted back up because Vista Restart Manager kicked in, and it started the MFC application that happened to crash.
Oh, very cool. The new task dialog too.
Yeah, so this is the new task dialog, and as you can see, so this is as part of the lighter features that we have done. Earlier you used to have message boxes with OK and cancel button, which wasn't very intuitive. So in Vista there was this new concept of task dialogs which have command links which are more actionable and more descriptive. So we have wrapped this functionality in MFC through a C task dialog interface. So you can go ahead and modify your application so that they light up when they run on newer OSs like Vista, Windows 7 going forward. So there are two options available after it understood that the application crashed. You can recover the autosave documents or choose not to recover them. In this case, I would like to recover the stuff, and you see automatically the document that I have not saved is recovered, as well as the saved one was supposed to be recovered, so it's
cool.
right there. So I think this is pretty neat, and it will be pretty useful for some of the developers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who use this feature. Okay, so this was MFC. So what I did there, to save it. What I did there was, you saw me changing some of the properties here. So what was I trying to do? Let me give you an introduction to the build system now. So because this was a build system setting. Our earlier model of building applications was using VC build, which was a very closed system in itself, and it did not really have a lot of extensibility points. So as a move, as one of our core tenets is extensibility and scalability, we have moved to a newer build system, which is MS Build based. So we have a common platform across all the technologies like C# and VB. They already are on MS Build, and with this release, C++ is also an MS Build. What MS Build provides is build extensibility and platform extensibility, and some of these features you'll see. Because of the extensibility that MS Build provides, we have been able to surface some of this extensibility back up into the IDE. So you'll see a lot of extensibility points all over the place in the IDE as well, and I'll demo some of that here.
Very cool.
The setting that I changed, we have another very cool feature is native multi-targeting that we are shipping. So out of the box, what native multi-targeting means is that you will be able to target different compilers. So if you have, like for example, Orcus installed on your machine, or Visual Studio 9 installed on your machine, you will be able to target that particular compiler if you don't want to use the new compiler we ship with 2010. That's not something we want you to do, but this is the flexibility that we are providing.
So be able to leverage the new IDE features while compiling
Correct.
to an older release.
So you'll be able to use all the new IntelliSense model and the basically navigation browsing model, use standard basically, but you'll still be able to use the old compiler. That said, I also wanted to emphasize that you can also use other compilers, but out of the box we are going to have only support for Visual Studio 2008, and it's well documented how to target other tools or compilers if you want. So out of the box we are going to ship tasks and targets for 2009.
Very cool.
So that's what I did. When I changed, I was actually building my application using Nino. So this is the platform toolset setting that we have, and since we have two options, you can either choose to target the latest Dev 10 Visual Studio 10 toolset, or you can use the older Nino toolset. Since I have Orcus installed, I'll still be able to build this application using that. So that's about native multi-targeting. So let me really quickly change this and go back and do a few things, because Restart Manager is not available in Nino and I'm targeting Nino. So let me rebuild this application. As you can see from the paths shown here, we are targeting the Nino toolset, since we are going to the Nino directory and getting the cl.exe from there. What MS Build provides is better diagnostics, and I just wanted to quickly show that the level of diagnostics that you can get while building. So here is an option to change the MS Build diagnostic capability. So you can move from minimal, normal to detailed. So let me do detailed, and you'll see that we are actually building we're using the old toolset, but we're using MS Build behind the scenes.
Right.
So it's the new tasks and targets model that we are trying to use here.
Very cool.
So That's one part of it. I know everybody is going to be happy with this feature and use different tools.
Yeah.
This also says that we are also using things that we expect our customers to use, how they want to target new tool sets or add new tools. We use the system in the same way. So there is a lot of documentation available out of the box. You can learn, go to the you can go and read the tasks and targets and learn more about how to implement things and how we do things in the IDE itself. Another cool feature about MS Build is that earlier when you used to see the properties on the left hand side, you used to see all these tools. There was no way to add any tools to this. The build systems are getting complicated and they're getting very complicated in nature. So people really want to, the users actually came back and we have feedback, they really wanted to customize their builds. So we wanted them to have the ability to hook in their own tools into the build system, and by writing tasks and targets you can do that. But in the IDE you still need the flexibility of adding these tools to the list so that you can change it at runtime, right? Earlier that wasn't possible, so we have done that work to make the tool set extensible here. So to do that, if you look at the project file, and this is an MS Build project file here that I have, and you can see the format of the file has changed, and we are providing an upgrade tool that will convert your older projects to the new projects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import a settings file, and just above that line you see that we have a default.settings. This is the default settings file for our tools that we provide. So you can write a similar default.settings for a tool that you have. So, and obviously you need to provide the targets that will execute the particular step that you want to. So I'll go ahead and save it. With that, after basically reloading the project, you can see that your property sheet shows up. So I've right now with this demo hooked in a new property sheet, and what this target does is that it's supposed to send an email once the build process is done. You can see the settings file, and I'll just open the settings file for you here. This is the XML file that defines how it shows up in the property pages. You have the display name, the emails, and this is the enum values that you see in the combo box here. You see this is an enum value, and it has all these values in here defined. And you can define what shows up on the property page in the property pages by defining this XML file, which is imported by the targets. What is interesting to see is the targets, and I'll quickly show. This is an MS Build feature where you can write C# code right inside the targets file. So what this is doing is that it has a task factory, and it instantiates and right in the MS Build file we have C# code. So this is for inline tasks. We call it inline tasks, and you can call C# code from inside the targets file. So, and let's go ahead and build this application again. And since it's still in detailed mode, there's such rich amount of diagnostic information available here that you can use. And you can see that we hooked up the target inside, right? And this is where the target gets instantiated.
Very cool.
So we hooked up a new target, and it wasn't too tough to hook it up. And
yeah, nice.
Yeah. And you can look at examples of our own targets that we use for CL, link, and everything else, and post it. So that's about the build system. So I think the biggest move was to move to MS Build. You can also define your own custom platforms. That's something that I've not shown, but I'll mention it here. That you don't have to be limited to Win32 if you have like Xbox that, like for example, the Xbox team has its own platform and their own compilers against which they compile the code. We have documented information about that in the CTP scenarios as well. You can hook in your own custom platform and compile against those.
Cool. And there's a lot of information out there on MS Build and extending MS Build.
Yeah. So MS Build is well documented, and previous, other languages have used MS Build in the past. So that's great.
Very cool.
Another cool, IDE feature that I wanted to, so in the IDE, we have done work in the project system and the build system, and the other part of the IDE that we have really concentrated on in this release is your navigation, browsing experience, and IntelliSense experience. You would really see a stark difference in the IntelliSense and the performance that we have, performance improvements that we have done in IntelliSense over there. What we have done is that in the previous releases we have seen that customers have come back and told us that the NCB model really didn't work out for them. The NCB file would get corrupt and they would have to close down the IDE and restart it again, or delete the NCB file, and then it would take a long time to create that NCB file. And you would see updating IntelliSense would take a long time, and the customer would actually have to wait till the IntelliSense was up to date for them to go and work, which was a big productivity hit. And you would have to wait for a long time before you could start working again. So NCB is gone. That's great news. What we have done is that we have basically changed the model for browsing and navigation. Now we use a SQL-based, SQL compact-based backend, which stores the navigation information for the system. So, for example, if you wanted to go from one function to another, all that information is now stored into a SQL compact database. So, which is scalable, and SQL is known for that, right? So now the IDE is able to scale to millions of lines of code and several thousand files in a solution. Another problem with the old model was that when we had a solution with large number of files or even smaller number of files, we would parse all the solution and all the files, even to provide IntelliSense. So IntelliSense would actually, that's why it took a long time to update that particular NCB file, because we were parsing the whole solution. But now we don't parse the whole solution, but instead only the files that you are working within and its dependencies. So if you have 10 files that you have, if you're working on a file that includes 10 other files and the dependency graph has 10 other files, we only parse that particular translation unit, so we are able to be more accurate and precise over there.
Cool.
With SQL, since it's a textual, we store basically all the information in a SQL database. It's textual, so whatever you write in the code is what we store in the SQL database. So the disk footprint is more, but we don't keep as much information in memory, so the memory footprint is less. So it wouldn't take as much. Now Visual C++ wouldn't take as much memory to provide you IntelliSense and browsing. To see some of that, I have here, let me go back and change. I'm going to build the application. So here is 2009, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the configuration from release to debug. And you see updating IntelliSense here. And it's still not done. So it's still working on updating the IntelliSense.
Wow.
So it used to take a long time, and you see that progress bar, and now it's done. And this is not a very big project.
Right.
So even for a small project, it's taking time, as you can see. However, in Dev 10, if you change this particular configuration from release to debug, it's done. It doesn't take as much time.
Wow.
So that's the kind of performance shift that we are seeing here.
So big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Even for a small project, as you can see, there's a big difference there. Another thing is accuracy. As you can see in 2000, I mean, it's not very demoable, but I'll show you the exact, I mean, I wouldn't be able to explain everything, but I'll quickly show you. Like, for example, for IntelliSense, right, what we did was, you can see we didn't really do a very good job of parsing the templates. If you see the type of it, it only shows that it's type, it's how it's defined in the regex file. However, IntelliSense is much more accurate now. And if you see, and you see we show the whole thing. So it's much more accurate, and it's able to give you much accurate information.
Nice.
So
much more helpful.
Much more helpful. And we are able to parse through the templates and give you the exact type of that particular thing. So that was about the IntelliSense model, the work that we have done there. The other cool thing is the IDE. Basically what we have done is we have worked with the editor team, and you can see that we can zoom in and zoom out here. So that helps a lot with the developers working on a large code base to be able to see a lot more code, or to be able to zoom in into a particular code and debug that, or write more code with zoomed in or zoom out. And this editor is actually extensible, so you can have custom backgrounds while working on some of this stuff, and third parties would be able to use this and extend upon it, because we expose the information. So as part of C++, we expose our types, the type information to expose that information for third parties to be able to use that and extend upon this editor and give much more functionality to the developers out there.
Very cool.
So that's a nice little cool feature here. So you'll see that going forward we have a lot of stress on extensibility and scalability. Another that was about the IDE. The other thing is what we have done work around conformance and working with the C++ OX standard. What that means is that we are the C++ committee is actually working on a standard and coming up with new language constructs and how C++ will look like, and it's huge. The standards is huge. We have taken a step forward and implemented some of these language constructs in Visual Studio 10. Namely lambdas, autos, static asserts, and R-value references. These are the 4 standards that you will see in Visual Studio 2010 when we release, when we are in the market. Right? You can play with them in the CTP as well. To show you some of this thing, what these language constructs help with is to ease the developers to write more concise code and not have to write large amounts of code, and these are actually basically in conformance to the standards, and we have actually worked really hard to get these things done, because we have worked very closely with the parallel computing team, and they wanted some of these language constructs to be implemented. So one of the language constructs that I'm talking about here is lambdas. Earlier, what used to happen was you would see that this is a simple program which sorts the words that we have written, and I'm not going to demo this, but I'm going to show this piece of code really quick here. And earlier, to write this, you would have to have written a stable sort function with a function pointer. And the function pointer is basically what will happen is you'll have to define a new function, create a function pointer to it. The function could be written elsewhere, and sometimes that loses context, because if you are working in the same piece of code, you want to see, and if it's not too huge, you can implement it right there. So that's what Lambda helps with. It's basically that the compiler understands how to create that particular function object for you. So this is a Lambda initialization expression, and it's something known as the capture block, which helps you capture the state of some of the variables that are part of the Lambda, and to maintain the state. So you can pass in different variables within this, and this is the and you can see that this is the argument list that we have, and you can pass in various arguments to this Lambda and implement the logic right inside the function call. So which is very helpful. And what this is doing is that it is taking into parameters L and R, and it's comparing the size of these two parameters. So based on the length of the words, it's sorting that and then returning that value. So stable sort is able to use a Lambda within it to implement the sorting function and not have to write another function pointer to implement that logic.
Right.
Auto is another keyword that you'll see that we have implemented in the new release. What this means is automatic type inference. What it does is that basically the vector itself could have had it could hold a complicated object, a templatized object within it, and it's sometimes difficult to know what the type of the object it is holding. So with auto, you can do automatic type inference and let the compiler decide what the type of that particular object is and apply to the variable to which it is associated with. So autos are great. I think it's one of my favorite language constructs here. It makes the life easier for all of us, for developers out there. There is a very interesting article that you can read about this on the VC blog. So if you go to blogs.msdn.com/VC blog, there's a really nice article about detailing the lambdas and the autos and the static asserts very in detail. This is written by Stefan, known as STL to everybody, and it has been received very well in the community. So
cool. We'll provide links in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and read that. So that's for the language constructs, that the work that we have done. So there was a TR1 library that we released with Visual Studio 2008, which a lot of people are using. So yeah, that's the work that we have done for.
That's very cool.
Visual Studio for Visual C++.
That's a lot of work showing the C++ love.
Correct, and there is more coming. So we are working on MFC. We are working on the Windows 7 taskbar. We have working on D2D, which is Direct2D, which is a replacement and which is much performant compared to GDI. So you'll see access to the D2D libraries over there. So the size of the libraries has doubled, literally doubled since the release of 2008. I think with SP1 and with this release, the size of the libraries that we are providing has doubled. So we are really working hard to get these things out there and into the hands of the developers so that they can play with it. You'll see rich icons, live preview coming up. These are the features that are coming up for Windows 7. So we'll be supporting these features, and as we go forward, we are very active in supporting these features. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, Amit. It's been a pleasure seeing all the C++ work going on.
Right.
And until next time, this has been another Visual Studio 2010 and .NET Framework 4 video.